This is the Moonlight Graham Show, a freewheeling conversation with the role players, the underdogs, and guys with flat-out great stories in sports.
Hello and welcome back to the Moonlight Graham Show, and our Moonlighter for today is one of the most highly decorated high school athletes the state of Iowa has ever seen. His name is Joel Osborn. Now, Joel Osborn, he was recently named head football coach for Benedictine College. Now, Benedictine, they are an NAIA program that is in the same conference as Grandview University. So Moonlighter Joey Woodley and Moonlighter Joel Osborn are soon going to be leading teams against one another on the gridiron. But before Joel got into coaching, like I said, he was a very highly decorated athlete, especially in high school. And frankly, I remember him most as a basketball player in high school, where him and his dad, he played under his dad, Mitch Osborn, at Harlan. And Mitch Osborn, the legendary Hall of Fame high school basketball coach, and his son Joel, who is the point guard for him, they led the Harlan Cyclones to the 2004 state championship on the hardwood. But it wasn't just basketball where Joel shined. He also was the quarterback of the football team, leading Harlan to a football championship that same year, and they also won state baseball and state track that year, which is a pretty incredible run for the Harlan Cyclones back in 2004. They won all four major team sports, and Joel was a part of all four teams. Even though he didn't contribute a whole lot on the track, he was a big part of those other three teams. After high school, Joel moved on to Northwest Missouri State. And if you know anything about Division II athletics, Northwest Missouri State is the cream of the crop. They're about as good as it gets in Division II. And when Joel was at Northwest Missouri State, he went there to play both basketball and football. He played about a year and a half on the hardwood and had a really nice freshman year in basketball, but he committed to football in the midway through his sophomore year because he wanted to be that starting quarterback. And Joel ended up winning the starting quarterback job his junior year and was a 2-year starter from Northwest Missouri State. He never won a national championship, but they got right up to the doorstep in his last 2 years there. After his playing career, Joel went right on to the coaching staff at Northwest Missouri State, where he has spent over the past 10 years. They have won 3 national championships with him as a coach. He's been the offensive coordinator most recently before getting his first head coaching job at Benedictine, and he just got named that within the past month here. And in NAIA, like we talked about with Joey Woodley, they got a spring season coming up here, so Joel Osborn is going to have a little bit of baptism by fire coming in without a whole off season to prepare, and they're going to be starting games up here this spring. But if anybody's ready for it, it's going to be Joel Osborn. The guy's a leader. He's a competitor. He comes from great coaching bloodlines, and you can tell just from talking to him that he's going to be ready for the challenge ahead. This was a lot of fun for me to connect with Joel because one of my good buddies, Heath Stein, and Joel are also really good friends. Joel and I are the same age. We competed a little bit against one another back when we were kids. He got the best of me, I'll be honest. And he's a really good guy, a really good coach. And this was a fun podcast episode to do. And if you like what we're doing here on the Moonlight Graham Show, make sure to subscribe to the podcast wherever it is that you get your podcast. And we would love it, guys. We would love it if you left us a 5-star review. You can also follow the show, of course, on social media, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube. We love hearing from you guys each and every week. So enjoy today's episode with Moonlighter, Joel Osborn. Joel Osborn, thank you for joining the Moonlight Graham Show. You know, it's been a while since you and I have squared off. I think the first time you and I squared off was maybe in 5th grade when you were back at Pomeroy Palmer. You and Billy Miller, you stuck it to the 5th grade Gales at that point. So it's been a while, Joel.
Yeah, that takes me back. That has been a while. So good memories, though.
Hey, well, congrats on recently being named head football coach of Benedictine. It's got to be an exciting time for you guys.
Yeah, it really is. It's a great opportunity. The program's one of the best NAI programs in the country. I'm taking over a program led by Coach Larry Wilcox, who he's a legend. He was there for 42 years and won over 300 games. So I'm not going to be able to do what he's done by myself. I'm going to have to rely on our staff and our players and everybody around around our team and organization to get it done.
So we recently had Joey Woodley on the pod, the head coach over at Grandview, and I know you guys might be facing off with Grandview here in the future. How do you get a program ready to go up against a school like Grandview who's had a ton of success recently?
Yeah, I got a lot of respect for Coach Woodley. He actually called me the other day and congratulated me on getting the job. So we're in the same league. They're in the North Division. We're in the South Division. So it's going to be a battle with them every year, and he's done a great job. Where they're taking their program from starting it up from scratch just a little over 10 years ago to now being one of the top programs in the country year in, year out, it's pretty incredible. So got a ton of respect for him and his staff and what they've done there. So we can't really worry about them, though. We just got to worry about our process. I mean, I talk about what's the college football process. So right now, we're recruiting every day, having kids on visits. Signing day was last Wednesday, but we're still looking to sign quality kids. And at the same time, we're 2 weeks into our strength conditioning program. So, we're doing that. And then we're installing offense because we're going to have games this spring. So,
Right.
There's a potential for playoffs. So it's unlike anything that's ever happened in college football, so but you just got to be ready. You got to roll with it.
What's the first thing you do when you get that job? Because like you said, it's a weird year, but also like being a head football coach, there's a lot going on. You got an entire staff, you got maybe 100 kids, you got to recruit, organization and communication. I'm sure those two things are key. So what's the first order of business when you become a head football coach?
First thing I did was I called Coach Wilcox. So going through the interview process, everybody was told he was going to be involved in spring season. So I wanted to call him and, hey, Coach, however you want to do this, I'm down for it. If you need me to observe, I'll observe. If you want me to help, I can help. And the moment I talked to him, he just said, Joel, he goes, I was just waiting to see who they hired. Now that they've hired you, I'm gonna step away and it's yours. So
Wow.
That kind of right there was just like, okay, now it's real. Now I got to learn who the staff is. I got, and I knew a couple of the guys on the staff, and they're good guys. So, I was able to step into a situation where I don't have to hire staff. So I didn't have to hire a staff. I just have to learn who we have, and they're great guys. They've done a great job. The next thing is getting to know the players. Fortunately for me, when I got the job, they already had recruiting visits scheduled. So, they've been recruiting. So in my first 12 days, we had 7 recruiting visits. So yeah, we got to work right away. So we had 20 commits when I got the job, and about 2.5 weeks later on signing day, we had doubled our commits for the high school class. So, and we're still continuing to get more in daily. So that's what I've been doing, and just, getting to know people from other departments and other teams there at Benedictine. So get to know people in the community. So it's been something new every day. It's been great.
Oh, I bet. Now, of course, your dad is a legendary high school basketball coach here in the state of Iowa, first at, Palmer Pomeroy, and then, of course, with the Harlan Cyclones. He's probably on the Mount Rushmore of Iowa high school basketball coaches. You, of course, had a chance to play for your dad, as well as your brothers did as well. But what have you taken from your dad from a coaching standpoint that you've, transitioned, even though you're coaching football? I'm sure there's something you took from your dad.
Yeah, absolutely. He was really good with relationships with his players and at the high school level with the parents. So, he'd had very few problems in his years, coaching high school sports.
Well, that's because you guys had so much talent.
Well, yeah, it's also getting everybody on the same page, right? And so he was so good at getting ahead of the curve in terms of, hey, this is what we're going to do, and he worked with people. He's not a dictator type leader. He's going to work with you to get the job done. So that's just the big thing, is just compromise and setting a vision for what you want to do. I mean, I remember when we got to Harlan, his first team meeting with the basketball team, he laid out a calendar for the whole season, and on it included the state tournament. And those guys they'd never been told, like, hey, you can go to the state tournament. They never had the vision of that. So that first year he had some unbelievable athletes, and they ended up getting second in state. So I don't know, that's an example of one of the things that sticks out to me with my dad. But he's so good with people that, that's what it's more about lifelong relationships than it is about just those 3 to 4 to 5 years those kids are in your program. So he has relationships with guys I played with to this day still. And guys he's coached at Palmer and Palmer and Elkhorn, Kimballton, all three places.
Right. And of course, your senior year, Harlan was, has had a great athletics for many, many years, but really, I don't know if it was ever as good as it was in 04. You guys win football, you win baseball, you win basketball, and you won track. You guys had all 4 titles at one point. What was that run like for you?
Yeah, it's pretty incredible looking back on it now. You think about it. We weren't the most talented team my dad's ever had. And we weren't the most talented kids ever went through Harlan, but we had a great chemistry and bond with each other. We knew how to, we had a killer instinct. I should tell you, we could really get out and get after people in the games that honestly in the championship games, those were like our worst games performance wise, and we still found a way to win.
Yeah, you went 4 for 23 in that championship.
Yeah, thanks for reminding everybody about that, Tim. You got somewhere, my brother Kevin is going to be laughing. Jeff and Beeson and Heath Stein will be laughing about that statistic.
Well, Jeff Beeson hit 2 huge shots in the fourth quarter.
Oh, he did. No, he actually hit 3 in a row. We ran the same play. So, like, something you take from basketball, I take with football is if something's working, don't change. Just run the same thing. We ran the same play against Cresco. At the end of the game, I think 5 possessions in a row. We got 5 buckets, a lot of points. So we went on a 19-0 run to finish that game. But
wow.
Yeah. So.
Yeah. So they had track too. Of course, you were a focal component of football as a quarterback, basketball as the point guard. You played a lot of shortstop on baseball. Did you run track as well?
So me and Jeff Beeson were on the team. We would work out, and then with Coach Carson's would give us like a sprinter's workout. We weren't sprinters, by the way. And then after practice was over for us, we'd go throw. So we'd step on the football field and we'd throw the ball. So, there's a couple of days where guys, one of their workout requirements was catching 2 passes for me, the whole track team. So there were a couple of guys that were defensive guys. They stayed there for a little longer than everybody else because they couldn't catch. But yeah, that's what we did. So we had 4 remarkable athletes that between all 4 of them on the track team won the state track championship together. So those guys were really good, and they were involved in other sports too, but yeah, that was our track season. That kind of sparked that run, and then baseball in the summer, followed by football, and then basketball to finish it off.
Who do you think's the best athlete ever from Harlan community?
Oh boy. Probably Jess Shaven.
Ooh.
Yeah. She graduated in the mid 2010, so maybe 2015 or 16. They won 2 state championships in women's basketball, 2 in volleyball. I think they won a runner-up in basketball as well when she was young. She went on to be first-team All-American in volleyball. She's played beach volleyball for LSU. So,
wow,
she's 6'2". I think she could jump and touch the rim. I mean, like, she was a difference maker. She could have gone and played college. She could have played college basketball anywhere she wanted to. So, just her success and her team success, that's probably who I would say. If you're talking men's sports, I mean, there's been a lot of good ones. So there's so many. I mean, when I got there, we moved to Harlan. You look at Billy Cundiff. He was a multi-sport guy, and he succeeded at the highest level in professional sports. So in terms of succeeding professionally, it's probably Billy Cundiff. So
yeah, I was thinking Billy Cundiff, and then you had Kurt Kaufman's got a lot of the baseball records. He made it up, of course, with the Yankees as well. Those 2 and then yourself were the 3 guys that popped into my head.
Yeah, Kurt Kaufman was a really good player as well. If you look at the other guys that were really good, had Zach Degas gone out for football, I would have never started quarterback until later in my career. Guy had a cannon. He played AAA with the Red Sox and got an injury, kind of ended his career. So had he not had that injury, he probably would have made it all the way to the big leagues. So I mean, he's 6'4". He was a guard in basketball. He was a quarterback. He could have played whatever he wanted to play. So he excelled at baseball. I don't have memories of Kirk, but I do have memories of Zach throwing 92 miles an hour in the 7th inning against Denison Substate. So, and in one other statistic about Zach, You'll find that it's interesting. When he was a senior in 2002, we played 4 games. So the 3 to get to state and the 1 at state. He finished 17 for 17, never got out.
Yeah, Zach Davis, one of the best hitters I've ever seen. His numbers, if you go back and look at his numbers in high A, I think he was playing in that California high A league. He won player of the year. He had something like 58 doubles or 65 doubles or something. And you're right. If he didn't get hurt, he was going to be like the next, David Ortiz or the DH for the Red Sox coming up in that system.
Yeah, he's just so humble too. So, he's really good. He was really good.
So after high school, though, Joel, of course, you were real successful in basketball and football. Those are your 2 main sports. I got to imagine you were getting recruited by a lot of different places, but you go to Northwest Missouri State, who has a great track record in both football and basketball. You're looking to play both sports. Who did you have to turn down to go to Northwest Missouri State?
All the Dakotas, Nebraska, Omaha, Nebraska Kearney was what it came down to, because they were the other team that was going to allow me to do both sports. But really the Dakotas were all transitioning to FCS, right? So that was a turnoff to me at the time, because during my time, I wouldn't have been able to play for a championship for them, so it would have been cool, to build their program and help with that scenario. But, Northwest Missouri State offered a legit opportunity to play for a national championship. So that's what it came down to. So I chose Northwest, got to play both sports. Guys who are still my mentors to this day, like Coach Churchma, Adam Dorrell, Rich Wright, Charlie Floor from the football program. I was hired full-time by Scott Boswick, and then he unfortunately passed away from a heart attack before he got a coach in a head game. And then you flip it to basketball. So I played for a Hall of Fame coach, Steve Tatmeyer. Well, his graduate assistant my first year was Ben McCollum. He was from Storm Lake St. Mary's. And Ben right now he's one of the best coaches in the country, any level, any sport, in my opinion. What he's done with men's basketball here is remarkable. Had they finished the season last year, I really think they would have won their 3rd national championship in 4 years. What he's doing right now, I think they're 14-1, and having a great season. They're ranked number 3 in the country. So, what he's done is phenomenal. So, but he's a mentor of mine as well. So, there's been a lot of good ones definitely here at the school that have influenced me.
Now, I've seen a lot of guys play multiple sports in college, but most of the time it's like football and track or football and baseball, a fall sport and then a spring sport. But you're doing football and basketball, and essentially those seasons just overlap nowadays. How did you make that work?
Well, I was in the weight room 6 days a week my freshman year. I practiced every day. We had practice for football. I had 1 day off for basketball from practice. I was able to do it because I registered in football, so I didn't have to put time in watching tape, watching film. You're on scout teams, so you read a card and, those type of things. So that second year was much more difficult. The second year, I didn't get to start basketball until 2 months into basketball season because of our football runs. So that made it really hard. Yes, it is difficult. There's no doubt. It drains you. You're going to, I think you could do it if you're playing a position besides quarterback, because quarterback takes so much work, outside of the practice field, outside of the weight room, outside of the training room. There's so much more time to prep for a game playing quarterback. But if you're a guy that's like, you're a freak athlete, which I wasn't, I think you could do it. But, it's difficult for sure.
Yeah, you had a really good year your freshman year, though, on the hardwood. Like,
yeah, I was
really
fortunate.
From the outside, it seemed like the transition wasn't too much for you.
It was. There was a transition. The thing is, I provided them something that, any team in college basketball can use, and that's somebody who can make the deep ball. So I could make threes. I provided a spark off the bench. We had one of our guards got hurt, so I played a lot more than they probably anticipated me playing. But yeah, so it was a fun season, a lot of connections. So, the athletic director at Northwest Missouri State, Andy Peterson, was one of my teammates. So the women's basketball coach, Austin Meyer. So a lot of good guys.
Was it tough to give up?
Yes. Yep. Tough decision.
Right. Did you do that now? I was looking at the stats and I don't remember this real well, but you only played 7 games, which would have been your sophomore basketball season. So did you stop mid-season or did you get hurt? What happened there?
I did. I stopped mid-season to focus on trying to win the quarterback job. And that was the next season. So going into my sophomore year, trying to win the quarterback job, and actually I got beat out. So there I'm sitting there, I'm not playing basketball. I just got beat out for the starting job. What do you do? So and Josh Matthews was a year older than me. So I stayed with it though, and didn't transfer, didn't waver in terms of my preparation. And so didn't actually play much at all my sophomore year. We made a run to the national championship. We got beat by Grand Valley State for the second time in a row. So then that next year, my junior year, I just said to myself, I'm going to do everything I can. I can't control the fact that I'm not the starter, but I can't control how I prepare. And Josh, unfortunately for him, he got hurt. We were at Nebraska Omaha, and he got a concussion. So I came in late in the game, and we didn't end up winning that game. But I got to start the next week, and we went down to Missouri Western, and we won on the road without our starting quarterback, our starting tight end, and then. So after that, Coach Doral that was his first year being the offense coordinator. So he was able to work out a 2-quarterback system to get me to play. What was unique about me and Josh is we had similar skill set. I didn't have as big as time arm, but neither of us were runners. So it's not like the second guy was a different guy to prepare for. He just saw value in me, me playing. So,
Sure.
And then later in the season that year, Josh got hurt his shoulder and his throwing arm. So I finished the season as a starter. We made a run at the national championship. It was a tough loss. They scored with like 20 seconds left. So we lost that game. And then, so then my senior year, I thought I was just going to be the guy, but, Coach Doral, in his infinite wisdom, brought me in and said, hey, I need to play Blake Bulls. We need to play a 2-quarterback system. And so I told him, I said, I don't agree with that. I said, I looked at Coach Churchman. I said, do you think this will help us win a national championship? He said, I do. And, so we did it, and we ended up making a run at the national championship. Had we not done that, there's no way we get there because we went on the road and beat Abilene Christian that year. Down there, they had beat us 44-21 in the first game. And the week before we played them, they beat a playoff team 93 to like 60. And they had some guys. They could go. They actually tried a hook and lateral to get to 100 points at the end of the game. They were playing West Texas A&M, so there was no love lost between those two. But, I mean, there are 2 starting receivers, Clyde Gates and Johnny Knox, both played in the NFL. Johnny Knox the next year was in the Pro Bowl. The 2 tackles were 6'8", 330. The running back was Bernard Scott. He had a 5-year career for the Cincinnati Bengals. And their starting quarterback was Billy Malone, who was a drop-down from SMU. And their tight end was from Notre Dame. Their offense, this is the best offense I've ever seen in Division II. So the fact that we beat them, it wouldn't have happened had Blake Bulls not played. His 2 possessions he played quarterback, we scored 2 touchdowns. So, it's just, so just trusting your coaches was a big thing for me, and I just felt like I was the guy, but they felt like it was going to help us. So I said, let's do it. So
I know it's easy to talk about now because you're a coach. But when you're like a 21, 22-year-old kid, how tough is it to swallow your pride and to put winning, in front of your last chance to play quarterback?
Yeah, it's hard to do. One of the things I'll tell you, if you look at my statistics from that year, I wasn't statistically the best guy that's ever played the position at Northwest Missouri State. But when it came down to it, we won the conference. Mel Churchma stood on the table for me at the conference meetings and said, this is the conference player of the year. He's our best player. He's our leader. And that's the thing. Those are the type of things he said. And I won the conference player of the year on offense. I didn't feel like I deserved it statistically. Our running back probably deserved it. But, that was the thing about Mel. He really rewarded you if you sacrificed for the team. So that's the one thing that stands out to me, is as a coach now looking back, is how powerful that is. We never really talked about individual accolades at Northwest Missouri State. We talked about doing what's best for the team. And at the end of the day, all those things were going to take care of itself.
So, Joel, the way we end every episode of the Moonlight Graham Show is with the 5 big questions. All right.
All right.
First question is, who's your all-time favorite teammate? You better be careful here because there's a lot of guys on that basketball team at Harlan that bailed you out in that championship game.
Oh man, all-time favorite teammate. Now you're talking. You got two basketball team or two athletic teams at Northwest. You got all those teams in Harlan I played on. Oh man, that's tough. All-time favorite teammate. Jeez, that's hard. You're putting me on the spot. Oh, I'm gonna have to say it's got to be Jared Ersbaumer, starting middle linebacker at Northwest Missouri State. He is currently on the pit crew in NASCAR, working for Hendrick Motorsports.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he works on Chase Elliott's car. So,
oh, cool.
Yeah, so they won the championship this year. So it's got to be Jared, though. I mean, he's the only guy in my class that didn't redshirt. He's the most loyal human being I've ever met. Lived with him for probably 2 years in college. We were GAs together after that. So, yeah, Jared actually took 2 years off, Tim, after he graduated to coach. And then he went out for the baseball team at Northwest. And he trained for like maybe a month. And he ended up being the starting first baseman, started 30 games, hit over 300.
Wow. What an athlete.
Yeah. Yep. So
you might have to get him on the podcast there. That's a role player type of guy right there, being on Chase Elliott's pit crew.
Oh, he's good. You'd love him. So he grew up in Omaha, Nebraska. He was a state runner-up for the player of the year, athlete of the year behind Danny Woodhead. So we actually played Woodhead twice. So he's 2-0 against Woodhead in college. So
nice.
But Jared's a great guy.
What's one memory, Joel, when you look back on your career, high school, college, growing up in 5th grade, when you think that game, that moment, that play, that's when I was at my absolute best?
Probably the state championship in football in the fourth quarter. You know, we needed 2 big plays. And so, it was like 5 minutes left in the game. We're down 12. And so we get a quick strike on a deep ball to Applegate up the pipe on a double reverse pass. And then defense gets a stop. And you just knew we were going to come back and win that game. And I think second play of the drive, we ran patented play action backside 6 to Applegate on the corner route. And so, you know, just both those balls, if you look at them on tape, were just perfect spirals, just deep balls that, you know, I couldn't have thrown any better. So you look at the timing of the game. I mean, that would be what I was proud of in terms of my individual play. So,
yeah, Applegate. I forgot about him. He was another one of those guys. I think he might have been a year younger than you. He was a total mismatch on the football field. Great tight end, great linebacker. I bet Heath Stein was probably open on both those plays, though.
Yeah, I think the first one, you can tell Heath, he wasn't in the game. So the second one, I think he was in there. He was probably on the other side of the field running the corner off or something.
Yeah, providing distraction. Third question here, Joel. What's the play that nags at you? The play or the game that keeps you up at night?
Oh, man. Well, if you look in high school, I mean, there's one play, sophomore year, I threw an interception to end the game. We're down 12-9. We're in field goal range against Western Dubuque. That one would be one from high school. If you look at college, probably we ran 4 verts concept versus Minnesota Duluth, started the second half. And we had Nick Rhodes matched up on the cornerback side running a double move. So instead of running your typical go route, he would run a comeback and go a shiver. So I, for some reason, didn't go to him. I went to the field and I threw a pick. And Nick, the guy fell. I mean, I could have thrown a terrible ball. Nick would have caught it and scored. That would have changed the game. So instead of us being tied at 7, then all of a sudden they took the ball down the field and we were down 14-0. So that's a play a lot of people don't even know about.
Yep.
Huge
now,
play.
Obviously, you've got, your dad's probably played a huge role in your life. You've mentioned a lot of great coaches that you've had as well. Outside of your dad or anybody that you're related to, who's one guy that you've just always looked up to and has been a great role model in your life?
I say Joe Hadachek. Joe's a former high school football coach, Union Port High School in Dysart, Iowa. He's a great family friend of ours. He's just he's a guy that what he says he's going to do, he does. He is a leader of men. He is a great leader. So he's always leads with integrity. Everything he does is for the betterment of the other person. So Joe Hadachek.
Cool. And then final question here, Joel, is what's the best advice you've ever received?
Oh, geez. Well, I've received a lot of advice recently taking over, as a head coach of the program, but
I bet.
Yeah, probably just trust yourself.
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah, trust yourself. Being in a leadership position, you're going to make decisions that aren't going to, not everybody's going to be happy about it, but, I've already had to do those things. So, and you just got to stick with it and trust yourself.
Cool. Well, Joel, I know you got to get to your son's basketball game right now.
Yep.
So, that's the most important thing you can probably do today. So good luck to your son. But thanks for coming on the Moonlight Graham Show. It's been fun getting caught up. Good to see you.
Yeah, you too, Tim. Thanks a lot.
Yep, and best of luck at Benedictine.
Hey guys, thanks once again to listening to today's episode of the Moonlight Graham Show. And even though I do most of the interviews here on the podcast, there is a ton of work that happens behind the scenes that you guys don't see that make each episode possible. So I got to give a shout out to the Moonlight Graham Show team. First of all, Brian Sandvig, our producer. Brian does all of the post-production work, and in real life, he's not just a podcast producer, he's also a real estate agent. So if you're looking to buy or sell a home down in the Kansas or Missouri areas, give Brian Sandvig a call. Next guy on that list is Brendan Gargano. Brendan does all of our design and artwork here on the podcast. He's one of the most talented artists I've ever met, and I love all of his work. If you need any help on the design side with logos or anything like that, give Brendan Gargano a call. The next guy on that list is Andy Flattery, my older brother. Andy, of course, has done some of the interviews here on the podcast. He also is a certified financial planner. He owns a business called Simple Wealth Planning. If you need any help in that area, check Andy Flattery out. And then, of course, the trusty co-host Tom Griffin and my younger brother Neil Flattery. Those guys are just busy being husbands, being fathers, they're family men, but also they do a ton of work here on the show. So thanks again for listening. We really appreciate you guys subscribing and supporting the Moonlight Graham Show.